If there's one thing I know to be true in fitness and health in an ever-changing climate, it's that anyone can transform under the right guidance, support, and accountability. And that's why I started online coaching 10 years ago, and I have over 5,000 transformations. And I think that is my biggest, proudest moment in fitness and health, is helping everyday people just like you, regardless of what's in front of you, navigate that to see success and build your dream body. So if you want to get the results you deserve once and for all, no pressure at all, check out the first link. That's the website for my online coaching application. You could check it out, see what I have to offer, and hopefully you'll see that we're a great fit. Submit an application. I look forward to taking all the guesswork out and working with you one-on-one to helping you build your dream body. Once again, check out that link, even just to learn more. There's nothing to lose there. Now into the episode. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and most of all, Happy podcast. I'm your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach, KG, and I'm on the microphone.
Welcome to Motivation Monday. Sit back, relax, and enjoy an incredible episode. And we're going to go ahead and reach right into the mailbag. We're dipping back into the questions I got from my amazing community here in our Instagram little community broadcast channel. There's so many different little social things, but I really like that area because it's an easy way to engage. And we had some killer questions. And the first question comes from there. And that is, when should I utilize static stretching versus dynamic stretching? Does it depend on the type of workout, before or after working out? And this is a phenomenal question and something we have covered, but I think it's always good to continue to cover because stretching is confusing. And most often you'll see people, perhaps haven't gone to the gym in a while, or sometimes some older people, they'll come into the gym and they'll right away throw their arm across their body, do the stretch, they'll bring up their knee and do that stretch, right? Because most often that's what we would be taught in like gym, PE class, whatever you want to call it back in the day, was just a stretch, kind of get warmed up and ready for exercise. But what's interesting actually is static stretching. So that would be any stretch where you hold the muscle in a fixed position is actually a net negative for performance. And studies have been done with this, with lifting, with sprinters, indicating that static stretching actually hindered performance worse than no stretching at all. But what's actually superior to both before a workout is dynamic stretching. And that's when we rapidly move our bodies. So think arm circles, think those hugs when you're bringing your hand in front of your chest to warm up your upper body, leg kicks, doing just some fast, speedy squats. And if you think of a muscle as a spring, I find this is one of the easiest ways to look at it. If you think of a spring, if it's a really tight spring, it's hard to pull it apart. If you start to pull it apart, it'll snap back nice and tight, right? It's going to have a lot of explosiveness behind it. The problem when you stretch out a muscle, and a very simple way to look at this in terms of performance, is if I stretch out and loosen that string, it's not going to have that same snap. And with it not having that same snap to contract into a strong position, you're going to lose some performance, and you may actually even risk some injury, believe it or not, which is quite interesting. Instead, what you want to do is warm up a muscle. You want to get blood flow going to it, and that's why we'll do more rapid movements to really warm up for it. So this is whether you're running or lifting, you're going to want to look more towards dynamic stretching. And on top of that, one thing I love to do is actively warm up the exercise I'm doing. So if I'm doing a push day, for instance, and I start with bench press, maybe I'll do some arm circles, some band work, nice dynamic stretching there. And then instead of me just jumping right into 315 bench because it's going to be horribly unsafe, I'm going to start with the bar. I'm going to do 135. I'm going to do 185, 225. I'm going to give myself the capacity to warm up in the movement I've been doing. And yes, while I'm doing that, I am working my shoulders. I am working my triceps. I'm getting a lot. But if I jump right into direct shoulder work, sometimes I'll do the same if I'm just starting with my first shoulder exercise. I haven't done a shoulder press that day. Yes, I've done a chest press, but there's no harm before you jump into using your 100-pound dumbbells, starting with a set of 50s, warming up, cueing the muscle, cueing the pattern, and that can be a great way to minimize injury prevention as well as maximize performance. And that is why dynamic is so superior pre-workout. Anything you want to add there, Kyle?
Yeah, I'm just going to put down a few links down below. We actually have quite a few short form videos that are going over some of our top like lower body movements between like leg swings. We even do different mobility movements, cat-cows, 90-90s, all that great stuff. And then also upper body. So it can give you some visuals as well. So check that out. And if you're following us on Instagram, you'll always be able to see some of these things and these visuals that we're sharing. But yeah, even on YouTube Shorts, we post them a bunch. But when it comes down to like even static stretching, I see so many people really killing themselves in the gym, especially after their workout, where they're just like, I need to get it done. And I even had a conversation with a client recently. He's like, man, with everything here between the warm up and the workout, he's like, I'm struggling to get it in. I'm like, we don't actually have to. Like, one of the greatest times if you are going to static stretch, and I want to make reels on this as well, is just to do it when it's most convenient. And that could be at the end of the day when you're watching a show, when you're just chilling, like right before bed. It's really relaxing. So using this principle and knowing that you don't have to do that when you're in the gym is so powerful. Like, I'd rather you get your cardio in. I'd rather you do some abs, maybe even do a cool down will actually be much more beneficial. So yeah, I really like everything Josh said on that topic though.
Yeah, so static is absolutely phenomenal post training or really any point in the day. And the beauty of static stretching is ideally you're moving a muscle through its through pattern, you're stretching it in that pattern, you're helping improve your mobility as well as your security in being in that motion. Because if we don't work our muscles in full motions, that's when they start to become more unstable and like just more at risk if they're not in those patterns, especially as you introduce more load. Like if you never have your arms extended and your chest wide and your shoulder under strain, and then all of a sudden you go, ooh, I'm going to start doing chest flies with 50-pound dumbbells. That's where you can incur quick injury, quite frankly. But on the flip side, another beautiful thing about lifting in full range of motion is you're actually stretching the muscle. So if I start by doing my chest flies with 5 pounds and I'm going really wide, I'm really stretching out my chest, this is quite similar to a static stretch. Obviously, I'm not holding that position 10, 30 seconds, whichever is most optimal, but I am still working it through that full range of motion. You'll actually find that by lifting properly with the full range of motion, you can actually improve your mobility, which is absolutely phenomenal. But on the flip side too, like lifting heavy can sometimes cause a lack of mobility just the same. So for example, if you're like lifting super heavy all the time and you're not doing any oblique or hip work and you're sitting at a desk, there's a chance that you can overdevelop certain muscles with not actually addressing areas and get really tight. And most often that'll be like hips, posterior chain. Like those are probably the big two that I would say would be your biggest issue. And the more you can start to actively do stuff to work on that, the better. And that is where I do like stretching at night if I'm able. Often it can feel like that extra thing. It can be a little bit tough, but I find even like just doing something instead of doing everything is a great start. If you say before bed, I'm going to do 2 stretches, you might do those 2, you might like it, and you might do 5 more. You might only do the 2, but if you do that consistently, that's going to do a lot better than if you never stretch at all. So that's where they both really have a place and they both have amazing function. And your goal should be to get to a position of mobility where you're lifting often, you're lifting under a full range of motion, you're stretching that. On the days you're more rushed, you don't need to do as much of a warm up, right? So it'll be okay. You're not going to break just because one day you didn't do your full long warm up. Of course, obviously you want to always try to do something, but that's a point we want to work to, is to have a position of health where we're always in a good place. Because it's possible you might be walking through your house and your partner will say, hey, can you help me lift this? It's not like you're going to be like, hey, give me 10 minutes to warm up, right? So that's where we want to build a healthy body, and we want to obviously be on top of these things to get ourselves in a great position to do just that. But that was one other fun little note I thought, and one thing I'm always trying to consciously be aware of. And just the same, there will be periods of your life where you'll need to warm up a little more. I dislocated my shoulder. I imagine for the quite immediate future, or maybe like the more prolonged future, I'm going to need to spend a little bit more time and attention warming up that area, give it some love. I had a little bit of a hip strain, so I need to pay some extra attention there, and I'll do a couple extra movements, especially if I'm doing anything around that. And that's the seasons of life. You'll work within what you need to work with. You'll really aim to be on top of everything, but these are both tools. But in terms of performance as well as safety, definitely do dynamic first, static after. That's the easiest way to look at it. So yeah.
Last thing I'll say is I think when it comes to static, I see a lot of myths and I see a lot of mistakes with it. And I kind of have a bit of a negative thought towards it because of all of these like things that people are doing wrong. So for example, when people say, hey, I'm going to static stretch, they'll put their arm across their chest and give like 2% effort and just like not really pay attention. They'll touch their toes, but they're not actually pushing themselves. So when it comes down to it, like doing a deep static stretch where it's like you're actually challenging yourself is going to be beneficial. Even if you search on YouTube Limber 11, there's a lot of really good stretches where like you're putting your legs behind on a chair and you're like actually in like a very deep stretch. Like there's quite a few mobility movements, but also static stretches. And so with that, like I just see a lot of people not wasting their time, but they're just like not actively challenging themselves. So at that point, if you're not challenging yourself in the stretch, it's not going to be as beneficial. And then even on that topic, like we were talking about going into the gym and doing it first, and then even just thinking like, I remember when I have clients, they would say, hey, I want to get more flexible. And they would never realize, they would just think they'd have to touch their toes to get more flexible without actually like strength training. And as Josh was saying, strength training will be far superior for flexibility. There's so many different studies and research done on that. So I think when it comes down to it, you just have to realize it does have a purpose, but there will be a lot of other things, like Josh said, dynamic stretching, strength training, and actually actively challenging yourself with that stretch that will actually help you so much more in terms of flexibility, recovery, and all that great stuff.
Yeah, and this might be a little contrarian to what you would imagine, but I think stretching is held in such high regard because it's immediately associated with health. But like I said, lifting should always be a priority. To me, I would rather lift and not stretch than stretch and not lift. Because as I said, you are putting your muscles through a full range of motion when you're lifting intelligently. Obviously, you're working towards your longevity when you're lifting. You're optimizing your hormones, your energy. You're building like strength into your body, into your joints, so you can actually withstand more injury. And once again, you do really want to prioritize lifting. And we don't want stretching necessarily to fall at the wayside either, but I know sometimes people will misconfuse the two and they'll cut off their lifting to spend more time stretching. And ideally, we just want to build the capacity to be able to do both with full intention and full capability. And just the same, like band work, dynamic movements have a great way for you to actually improve your range of motion just the same. And even I was doing my rehab for my shoulder, like I really would find banded movements quite important, right? And there's also like, I guess you could say they're more mix of strength / mobility type stretch movements. So if you think of like banded external rotations, you don't want to be doing those with the dumbbell because you'd be fighting gravity and it wouldn't serve its purpose. But even in that motion, you're still pretty dynamic with it. It is a little bit like you're working some muscles, but the main goal is to strengthen that rotator cuff and improve mobility. So if you're going to really aim to like hone in on mobility, do things that are going to work towards your knees, your hips, your shoulders, like the areas that are most prone to potential of injury, the more you can get in front of those, the more of a benefit you're going to see. And that's where I'd start by prioritizing those and then start to lean into some of the other stuff. But I loved Kyle's example, and something I've had really great habits of in the past. So I'm trying to reintroduce of just stretching either before bed or with like a show. If you're fortunate your living room has a little bit of space, if you're watching sports in particular, it's a great way just to do a couple stretches, hang out, get a little bit loose, and you'll actually find you'll sleep a little bit better from that as well. And that is our primary question. So now we're going to go ahead and jump into our quotes. And I absolutely love my quote today, so I'm excited. I'm going to go ahead and start with that. My quote is from Seneca, and it is, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And this really just hit me because I think it's so easy to overthink. And I mentioned in a previous episode that I'm definitely an overthinker. If something happens, I'll go to the worst case. I'll go through every scenario. I'll try to brace myself for that. And it's funny how a lot of the times we end up suffering more from it. Or maybe there's been a workout, a movement, something you've had to do at work that you've dreaded and you've overthought and you've made it out to be worse than it was. And then you got there and you're like, okay, this wasn't too bad. And I just remember there was like a couple things in my life that I would really overthink. And I started to realize, okay, it's not as bad as I thought, not as bad as I thought. And now I've really challenged myself to like avoid overthinking. And a lot of the time you'll say, how can you stop overthinking if it's just a tendency you have? And what I loved was in Jocko Willem, he has a book and he's like, if you want to stop thinking about that girl, stop thinking about that girl. If you want to stop thinking about your injury, stop thinking about your injury. And it's funny because it's such a simple thing to say, like just to say stop thinking about it, but it works pretty well. So the next time you find you're overthinking, you're causing yourself more suffering, perhaps you're a worrier, you're anxious, try to just tell yourself, I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to think about it. And like, don't entertain that, because I think the more you build a habit of just recycling the thoughts in your brain day in, day out, you end up suffering way more than the actual thing. And on the flip side, you suffer more when you procrastinate. So if there's something you've been putting off that you know you need to do, just go out and get it done. Just plow through it. Don't think about it. Take that first step to actually see some change toward it. And that's how you can actually avoid this. And you can actually free up a lot of pain in your life. And also another bonus, if you can reframe failure as like an attempt. I heard a recent thing in a motivation video and I loved that. It said failure isn't trying and failing. Failing is refusing to try at all. If you like fail because you tried something, that was your first attempt, you didn't get it, you'll maybe get it your second one, maybe your eighth one, maybe your 16th one, whatever it takes. But if you don't try at all, that is truly failure because you have no capacity to actually do it. So once again, you could take this quote a lot of different ways, but it really got my mind going. And that is, we suffer more in imagination than in reality, from Seneca.
So well said. And it kind of gets me thinking about everything that happens in the world, how we oftentimes will start to put together the worst case scenario. What if, hey, how's this going to affect me? And we really start to beat ourselves up over that. And I think one thing that's really helped me over the years, like get through any of this and like not worry as much, is I ask myself, what can I do right now in this situation? Sometimes there'd be an immediate action I could take. Let's just say the economy you're worried about. What can I do right now? If there's nothing, brush it off and say, well, there's nothing, like stop thinking about it, stop worrying about it. So that's something that I'm a big fan of because I try myself not to. Obviously there are times where you're like worried about things, and understandably so, but if you're just like constantly that's all you think about, oh man, it's going to defeat you. I've been there and it's not fun. But that was so well said. And my quote for today is, it's not the result that's important, it's who you become in the process of achieving the result. So I have so many memories, amazing memories of fat loss journeys, physique competitions, powerlifting, marathon, ultramarathon, relay, all that great stuff. And although the outcome was a really fun experience, like doing that run, doing that lift, whatever it was, it really, like when I look back on the person that I've become, it's all of those sessions and like all those moments leading up to that that's like transformed me. It's, I think another quote people will say is, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And I think it's just such a great way to put it. So even for you, if you have 20 pounds to lose, or if you're looking to lose fat and build muscle and transform and change your physique, it's about who you've become in that process. It's about the habits that you've developed, the things you've said no to, the experiences you've had, the personal records you've hit, all that great stuff that's really going to make such a big difference. And even for those of you who have hit really big goals, when you get to that milestone, you obviously know that you may feel empty afterwards, or you may feel like what's next, or it's not all that it's set out to be. Like when you hit that PR, when you hit that run, it's really fun, but you're always like, what's next? But it's all those moments leading up to it that really, really makes a big difference. So yeah, that's going to be my quote for today. And I hope it, helps you in some way or another.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And now as we jump into our thoughts too, I guess one thing that kind of goes on top of that, right? Because if anything too, to Kyle's quote, one thing I've learned time and time again, it's not often the thing you want, it's the journey that's fun. It's the wanting it, the figuring it out, the doing the work, being in the process of it. Like these are the things that are under celebrated and underappreciated that are actually so, so special. And just the same, I believe if you have a vision and you stick to that vision, you put in the work to achieve it, you refuse to not achieve it, it might take forever, but you'll find your way there. Like it's almost impossible to not succeed if you have direction. But just the same, if you're just lost and aimless and you don't actually have a goal and you're flip-flopping and you have no direction, there's no way you're going to get where you need to go, right? It's just like hoping you can navigate somewhere you need to go for something without a map or knowing the address. It's not going to happen. You're going to wander around aimlessly. It's not realistic. Whereas when you have that map, you have that GPS, you have that vision, you're going to find a way to get there. Even if there's a detour, you're going to work around it because you know that end result. And then the question is just, what steps can I do to make that happen? And I also liked how Kyle mentioned to my quote earlier that if there's something nothing we can do to change the situation, it's not worth thinking about. But sometimes at the same time, there is something you can do, right? And it's always good to ask yourself that. If you're feeling like you're out of shape and overweight, there's tons of things you can do to combat that. You could sign up for coaching. You could start going on walks. You could finally commit to a workout regimen. You could order meal preps. You could start tracking your food. Like there's so many actions you can actually take to move you forward. And even if you don't absolutely fix everything the first try, like I said, see it as attempts, and then just keep working through those attempts till you start to realize that vision and get to where you want to be. And you'll notice all the great minds say they had a vision, they didn't waver from it. If they want to be the best, they said they'd be the best. And it's amazing seeing how people have found their way there, and just having that belief, that delusion, whatever you want to call it, to see it through is so instrumental. So that was my main thought for today.
Yeah, awesome. One thing that's been like really on the top of my mind lately is just like habit creation. So one of my clients recently, he was asking me, when I sent him video check-ins, he was asking me what book, like on my bookshelf behind me, I'd recommend. And I was just talking through Atomic Habits, The Power of Habit. And I was like, I can recommend a lot of like motivational books and a lot of mindset things. Like I do believe that's important, but I was like, the first step will be the habits. Like once we get that down, everything becomes a lot easier. And it just got me thinking of how many bad habits there are. So every single morning I go on a walk. It's a non-negotiable. I make it happen. And as I'm going back and just finishing my walk, there's a neighbor that I see every single morning getting Tim Hortons delivered. So that's basically like Dunkin' Donuts in the States, one of those bagel places, coffee, whatever. And I just think I'm like, man, that's a pretty crazy habit. Like, not to mention all the fees added on, but it's just one of these things. I know they have a young child, like about a year older than mine. I was like, man, I deleted those apps. Like, I just, for that reason, like how the convenience is there, it's just so easy to have them. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, when you get used to doing things, it just becomes habitual. It's what you know. And once again, I'm not sure what's being ordered. It, probably is a bagel or breakfast sandwich or whatever the case is. But even in my mind, I'm like, this is like a 4-minute walk, like maybe a 6-minute walk from my house. I'm just like, that's pretty crazy. So for me, I'm very habitual with my morning walk every single day, just around the block, the same loop. It is what it is, rain or shine, get it done. So it's a matter of like, when you sit down with yourself and ask yourself, what habits have I normalized? Are they good for me? Are they bad for me? Are they neutral? This will make a big difference on your overall health. And if you need to navigate and work around something, make a change. Like, there's been numerous examples where I've shared, I noticed I would get a donut every time I would go to this spot. As I was driving towards a client, there was a donut shop right there. I did it twice and I was like, you know what? I'm normalizing this. Like, when I go drive to this client, this is what I'm used to. Let me break this habit. Don't do it again. Hey, there was a time where I got another one far in the future, but at the same time, it's like there's so many of these things that are either helping us or hurting us, and we want to avoid it. And even on that subject, you'll see last week we posted a frappe or whatever they're called, frappuccino from Starbucks. We've been working inside, like building our business. Like, Josh and I will sit down with our laptops, building Colossus Fitness for many years, and all we see, like every day, the same people, 600 calorie drink, 80 grams of sugar. That's what they normalize. That's the habit. We just get a black coffee with a little bit of milk, boom, 20, 40 calories, whatever the case is. But these habits that you've created are either helping or hurting you, and you have to sit down with yourself and say, how can I make this change if I want to? And go ahead and do that. So that's something I'm very passionate about, and hopefully it helps you in one way or another.
Yeah, a big part of that too is being honest and identifying if you have that habit and saying, okay, this is something I need to break. Because I think that example of the delivery is phenomenal, because not only is it hurting them financially, it's hurting them with their fitness, right? Perhaps you're not getting the best food, and you can even make that habit worse. Maybe it starts with just getting coffee to the house, right? And then from there, like, okay, well, I need to get breakfast. So you get breakfast and you're like, oh, I like a donut with my breakfast. And you can see how things can slowly spiral out of control. On the flip side, like, you can even say, okay, I'm going to stop ordering coffee. I'm going to get a nice coffee machine. You start saving money, feeling better. And you're like, okay, I've been liking doing that. I'm going to make breakfast at home. And then you start to make a healthier breakfast. And it's funny because I was even reflecting with my wife at how the Greek yogurt breakfast is probably one of the best things we've ever done, especially with having children, just because there's so much going on. You get the one ready for daycare, the baby's there. Like, it'll be chaos in the mornings and I'm trying to do some work. And with that, there's no, oh, what are we going to eat? Do we have food? Should we just go pick something up? We eat this really healthy breakfast every day. I start my day eating something great, eating healthy. It's very easy to prep for, very easy to get ingredient wise. Even for my children, they both end up stealing a lot of my food, which is always interesting. But even for them, that's like that many more healthy breakfasts they're getting as well. And it's all because I built and regulated that habit, which is absolutely phenomenal. Just on the flip side, these bad habits, like, they can be really easy just to have created and continued and really scaling. And I think the more you can identify and start to really nip these things in the bud and be aware of them and say, okay, this is something that's happening that I don't want to be happening. How can I remove it? And like I even mentioned, like through my wife's first pregnancy, I got in just a bad habit. I'd eat dinner and I'd be like, ooh, I'm going to order some extra food at night, whatever. Like, I'm bulking. And like, it's just easy to categorize as that and be lazy and create this bad habit. And the app was there and the temptation was there. And so it's like, okay, what can I do? I'm going to delete this app, start cooking really big dinners, get everything tracked in advance. And you can start to mitigate the issues that come around that by just being preventative and being aware and being honest with yourself, and start to break them. And just the same, if you're eating a good breakfast every morning, you're going on a walk, you're getting a lift in, like, that's a pretty great start to the day. And you can really snowball positive momentum just the same as you can snowball negative momentum.
Yeah, and like a lot of times people try to ask like what the secret is, or like they'll be asking Josh like, man, how do you stay ripped, or like, how are you so jacked? It's just like, we just do these things consistently, like positive habits. Like, I know it sounds easier and I'm making it sound easier, but it's like, yeah, that Greek breakfast yogurt is a secret. It's like 40 to 50 grams of protein. It gets your, just great start to the day. It's just like, whereas other people just, either fast and then like eat like crap later, or they'll just order in a bunch of stuff. It's like these things, like throughout the day, if you have tons of great habits sprinkled in and you focus on them one by one, like you can accomplish absolutely anything. But it's a matter of like just actually wanting to make that change, because I know a lot of people don't actually want to. They just say they want to. But I thought that was so well said with that breakfast example especially.
Yeah, now we'll jump into what is currently making us happy. So I'll steal it. I got the shirt on. We in our volleyball league, I think there's over 30 teams, almost 40 teams. We finished the season in first. We went into the championships. We went into our first game and we were getting clobbered pretty good. I think it was like 9-3. It was a game to 30. We were still down a lot. They were 1 point away from winning, and I think we were 3 or 4 points away from winning, but we ended up getting it done, which is amazing. We won our next set, and then we unfortunately won the first game of the championships and lost the 2 thereafter, but we still ended up in second. So what's cool about this league is there's like these 40 teams, and only first and second get sweaters or t-shirts. So we have like a blue sweater from when we won last year. Then this year we got second, but still something absolutely to be proud of. And I think it's just absolutely crazy. Sports in general, like if you're into sports, like you can be the best team all year, but it's like, can you show up in that moment? And it's a really good challenge and test. And once again, it's just really difficult, but I think it's really fun, even just reflecting on that season, being able to say, hey, we came out, we got second. So we posted a pic of our whole team there, which is myself, Kyle, Mary Kate, our amazing operations manager, who does a lot of stuff behind the scenes for us, which is phenomenal, and our buddy Andrew. So go show it some love there, because once again, it feels really good to get that done. It was freaking hot. I think Kyle said it was like 95 degrees or something, and we were playing at like 6 p.m. at night, but it was so hot. It was absolutely nuts. We were right in the sun playing all this intense volleyball. I think it was probably about 2.5 hours of volleyball, give or take, which is pretty absurd. And it's crazy how much water I drank too. And I just think it's also a good reminder with the heat, with the summer, staying hydrated. I feel like everyone always appreciates those reminders, because it's really easy to let that slip by the wayside. So if you're not great with your water, an extra reminder to be good with it. But that's definitely one thing that I'm happy about this week.
Yeah, it was honestly amazing. Obviously, I love winning. I love coming in first. You guys heard me talk about that before, but even just like the fact that we almost got kicked out, like I had some really bad plays in the first game and we almost lost, and just didn't even make it past 8th place, which would have been crazy. And then we just buckled in, we dialed in, we locked in, and it was great, just to make it to the end and have such a close game. Like I was saying before, it's about the journey as well. So even just I was shaking some of the moments. I was nervous. I was dehydrated. It was a really fun process, and obviously the outcome, whatever happens. And it was fun. Coming first for the league in the entire year. We worked so hard, and then making it to the end. Amazing times. But one thing making me really happy is just checking out my schedule and seeing a lot of fun things planned. So typically Thursday nights we'll just get 6 to 8 guys together. We'll play some very low stakes, couple dollar games of poker, and that's always fun just because you get to hang out with some guys. We'll watch hockey when it was on, and I have a lot of fun things that I look forward to, whether it's seeing family this summer, no real trips or anything, but it's always nice to just sit down with your calendar with whoever's around you and just plan some things out, whether it could be a movie night, it could be a walk, it could be a 1-day adventure, whatever it is. So I have a lot of fun little things planned, and it's just something that keeps me happy to have those things to look forward to, especially if life is busy and you can't really see the excitement. And for some of you who have some crazy jobs and work may be kind of taking a toll and whatnot, I think it's really good to have these things, whether it's a week or 2 weeks or 2 months in advance that you look forward to. It's always exciting to do that. So that's what's making me happy, and that's what's on my mind right now.
Awesome. And now we're going to go ahead and jump into our client shout out. This is someone in our program who is absolutely killing it, who wasn't crushing it previously, signed up, and we were able to break through everything in their way. And they're going to share, Kyle's going to share the transformation. We also post all of their top tips on Instagram. So once again, I say it a lot because there truly is a lot of value there. We just give on our Instagram, and it's become such an amazing extension of this podcast. So if you're not following us there, you really are missing out on a lot of great freebies, great free content. So be sure to follow us at Colossus Fit, COLOSSUSFIT. But who is our client shout out this week?
Yeah, this week we have Emily, who has just created so many amazing habits. It's basically every day now she's sending me a win. Yesterday, her shoulder veins were popping out. She's been loving the glute focus day. She's just been really enjoying the process. And honestly, it's not always about loving the process, but I know I've been talking a lot about it. I do find that like that process is what allows you to consistently show up. And so I've loved seeing these wins, but that's what's helped her transform to who she's becoming, right? You know, a fully transformed body recomposition. And as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube and then obviously on Instagram, every week we post that, her transformation from like before she started to where she's at now, she's gained lean muscle, she's lost body fat, and above all, her confidence, her strength levels, and just her commitment is just absolutely phenomenal. So huge shout out to Emily. It's just been amazing to see her transform, not only physically, but also mentally as well. And I know a lot of people struggle with this, especially because the type of physique that Emily had, a lot of people are in that situation, right? You're not exactly, you know, you don't have a crazy amount of fat, but you just want to start to tighten up. You want to start to tone up. As much as I don't love that word, you just want to change your body composition. You want to start to notice that whatever you're wearing, whether it's a dress or a bikini or whatever outfit, you're feeling your absolute best. And it absolutely is possible. Like Josh said, with the right guidance, with the right support, the dedication, the right training, we can get you there no matter what. So make sure to check out our website, Colossus Fitness. You'll be able to find that in the show notes down below. And we can't wait to help some of you awesome people.
All right, now we're going to go back to our mailbag and answer some other amazing questions. And the second question we have out of the mailbag is, how do I get motivated to get out of bed at 5 a.m. after a crappy sleep? Example is if my 4-year-old had an accident at midnight and kind of shook up my night, but I still need to get to the gym early. And that is from Melissa.
It's a great question. Honestly, where it's tough is I've really tried. Like, I'm not perfect, and I will say I've definitely had it quite a bit easier myself, personally speaking, but like I try to detach myself from those moments. I know like what we were talking about before is just the constant like thinking about it. And it's funny because I used to think about it. Like when I would track my sleep, when I would like always pay attention to that, all I would think about was how it was going to be a bad day because so-and-so, you know, woke me up, right? This was before I had a baby. Like this was a long time ago, but whatever it was, like maybe I just kept getting interrupted. Maybe like where I used to live, I'd hear sirens, whatever it is. And all I would think about was that circumstance. What would happen throughout the day? I would feel horrible. I would feel it in my workouts. I'd feel it in everything. And so over the years, like that's why I kind of like, I remember when I would have my Fitbit, I would always see the data. And no matter what, I would see like REM sleep. I'd see this. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be bad. No matter what, whether like, you know, my baby was up a little bit or whether even like my dog would randomly like bark here and there, like growing up, there'd just be like some random circumstances. I'm like, it is what it is. I'm going to be totally fine. Keep the habit. And as I was talking a lot about habits today, like I'm just such a fan of it. Like whether it's rain or shine, tired or energetic, hungry or full, whatever the case is, just show up. Even if it's to a lesser degree and it's not perfect, even if you're usually giving 10 out of 10 intensity on that workout, on that walk, on that run, even if you scale it back and you give, let's say 6 out of 10, like be okay with that. Say, you know what, it was a bit of a worse sleep. I'm still going to show up to maintain that habit. Even if it's not perfect, you'll get so much more out of that than just like allowing every circumstance to just dictate. Because if every time you're woken up, if every time you have something going on, if every time you get to bed late, you just consistently say, I'm never going to show up, you'll always find a reason. And I know it's a bit of a different and kind of harsh example, but I see a lot of people struggling on this journey because of that. So that's going to be my main biggest tip. It's just if you detach yourself, as hard as that will be, you'll just be a completely different person. Your kids will thank you. You'll thank you. Everyone around you will thank you. And that's going to be my honest answer for that one.
Yeah, the suffering more in imagination than reality is everything. And I think a bad sleep absolutely sucks, and sleep needs to be a priority. You are absolutely going to hinder your performance, your just really anything if you're lacking sleep. Like being sleep deprived is a horrible, horrible thing. I think as a parent, like I was talking to my buddy yesterday in the car on the way back from volleyball about it, and I'm like, just like a phase, like you kind of just got to do it. You got to deal with it and get through it, especially with like newborns or multiple children in general. I mean, if you have a 4-year-old, you're more of a pro than I am, of course, which is awesome. But even like, I think looking back, perhaps like you survived the newborn phase. It still sucks getting up that one time, but it's just like, you got to roll with the punches and the cards that are there. I also like to look at it as like, what's in my control? Like, can I get to bed that much earlier? Even if it comes at the sacrifice of only watching half a show instead of a full show, or 2 shows, or whatever it may be, like really prioritizing getting to bed on time, having a caffeine cutoff so the half-life doesn't mess up your sleep, like doing everything in your control so that when something out of your control like this happens, you still at least have a small benefit where you're still seeing that improvement. But outside of that, just getting it done. And I think not overthinking it is everything, because I'm someone who really appreciates a good sleep. I really notice a huge drop off in performance when I don't sleep well, but obviously I've had to learn to adapt with that. And there was a time where my wife went back to work and I was still working, and my son was like waking up at 4:30, and it was just like chaos, right? Like, and it just was not sleeping well. But I just like, the more I think about how tired I am and how bad I feel, the worse I actually felt. So instead I'd say, okay, what can I do? Like, I'll have a little caffeine, that's fine. Try and meditate in the morning when I can. I'll still get a good workout. I'll have a nice shower. I'm going to breathe through it. I'm going to get to bed really early tonight. And just like doing those little things is truly all I can do. It's not fun, but the alternative is like crying about it, whining about it, skipping all your workouts, and your health get worse and putting yourself in more of a downward spiral. And it's not a sexy answer, but I truly just think it is the only answer. And it's just one of those things we got to navigate through. And life is so seasonal. There'll be times when it's easy, times when it's hard. And the more you can show that adversity and that strength when it's hard, the stronger it'll be when it's easier, and the more results will stack. And if you keep that habit of getting to the gym, waking up at 5 a.m., even though it's so freaking hard to do, your physique will thank you. And you'll exit this time, you'll be in a better position of health. And it's like, pay now or pay the bill later, right? And the more out of shape you get, the more you damage your health, the more issues that can arise, and the harder it can be to undo that. So right now, when you're in the thick of it with newborns, 4-year-olds, whatever, like that's the time where you just kind of got to lock in, do what you can, put what's in front of you. Those days I was really tired, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to eat extra healthy today. I'm going to be extra aware. If you're able to nap and that's something that helps you, like explore all your options is what I'm getting at. But I think that was a good question and a great response.
I really also am a big fan of flexible rest days. Like, once again, I am a human as well. Like, obviously my biggest tip is like, get out there, make it happen. Like, you'll thank yourself later. But I do understand there are times to make changes based off of what you really need. So if you are up the entire night, 5 a.m. may not be reasonable for you. Ask yourself, will tomorrow maybe be a better option? Once again, I don't love recommending this because I know there will be some people who'll be like, tomorrow is always the better option, right? But if you know yourself and you know that there will be a better time maybe later in the day or the next day, and like, let's say Tuesday is usually your rest day, but then you'll end up switching it and moving it around a little bit. You can do that, but you do have to be careful with this, because I know some people will do it and then the end of the week they're like, oh, I've been pushing it back and then now it's Saturday, I've done nothing. But that is one thing that we can utilize if it makes sense. So I just wanted to put like a ton of asterisks right there, but it could be an option to make it more achievable for you based off of your situation.
Yeah, when we program for our clients, we'll look at this. We'll say like, okay, if the most optimal is to be in the gym 5 days a week, but it's not realistic, we'll do 4. There's days perhaps where you can sleep a little bit longer. It's more natural to go to the gym. But like Kyle said, these flexible rest days are huge, because yesterday obviously was crazy amount of exertion. Just makes sense for me to lift throughout the rest of the week. And we actually normally would be at the gym now, but we're recording because it made more sense to actually rest today. The big thing is that you don't just put it off to where it's unrealistic. I can't rest tomorrow because I'm going to run out of days in the week to actually work out. And I think sometimes people will rest Monday, Tuesday, and be like, oh, I'm having a flexible rest day and Wednesday, and then expect to get 4 in. Like, the more you push it off, the less likely you are to get it in. But if you're actually honest with yourself and you utilize that opportunity here and there, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it makes more sense today for me to rest. With the schedule of my week, things change. I'm actually going to a bachelor party this weekend, and like part of the itinerary is 2 big gym days, which is pretty funny. So I'm lucky I have fit friends, and it kind of makes sense with that, which is cool. But I'm like, oh, it actually makes sense for me to rest today, because I don't typically do that Friday. But exploring all those different options, working that mindset, just having that mindset too, that you're just going to beast your way through it, is always nice as well. And even I remember times that were particularly tough with sleep, like it sucked, but they do pass and they come back and new ones come. But c'est la vie, as they say, right? So now we'll jump into the third question out of the mailbag, and that is meal prepping actually worth it? If it is, how do you guys go about it?
It's a great question, and I think it's a very like personal one to you, right? Because I do believe it's worth it for most people, especially like what I have a lot of clients do, especially is they'll do like a Sunday, just like a little mini prep, and then mid to later in the week. I find that one's actually very important, because sometimes people will meal prep on the Sunday, they'll have a few good days, and then once like Thursday runs out, they just have like nothing, and then they just completely ruin their entire progress. So it is important to keep that in mind. Now, I think it's very important to just like keep it very simple. Always a protein source like that. If you were to just do one thing, a protein source available, such as chicken breast, will be such a game changer because that's where most people struggle. There's always carbs, there's always fats around. I think that's very helpful. But even when I used to do it, it would just be like chicken, it would be some sort of veggies, and you have to be careful because like if you do, I remember when I would do zucchini and it would just be like so gross and just get like not ideal to eat, whereas like asparagus would be great, green beans would be great, and then just like a carb source, whether it's like sweet potato. I'd usually just do rice because it would be a lot easier, but I just find that like breaking it down in something so simple like that and then just portioning it out for Tupperware containers for a few days will be so helpful, especially because I do find the start of the week is a lot harder for people like as they're running around. Mondays are always pretty busy, Tuesdays are kind of tough, like it gets quite busy. But I will say like just to have it available makes such a big difference instead of having to either like DoorDash or like try to cook for some people. It just may not be reasonable, but it really depends, right? Like you have to figure out what works best for you, because some people, they'll have like great dinners and that's awesome, but then lunch is where it's like really challenging for them. So there's no right answer. I just think that that's like a really good approach for some people. But then if you have it in the fridge, I know so many people who would just prepare it and they just never eat it, and it's gross to them. The chicken tastes horrible, and it's like they just do it to say that they've like done it, and it doesn't actually work. So I think it's just more of a personal one, but I'm curious to see what Josh has to say.
Yeah, I think it always would be worth it. Just something you need to play with and be honest with. Like I remember I would do some things, and I don't definitely love leftovers. If I could, I'd just cook every night, and that's pretty much what I do. I like to have fresh stuff, but sometimes when it's really good, I don't mind leftovers the next day or the day after. I just find as you get later into the week, it's just like becomes so hard to eat when you're eating the same thing over and over. Whereas I know some people that will prep Sunday right through to Sunday and they'll be totally fine. They don't care. And that's where it's such a individualistic thing where you really need to experiment, see what's appropriate for you. One thing I've had a lot of success with in my household is we'll do an entire week menu of dinners. So we'll know exactly what we're having every day, figure out lunch, and then it's Greek yogurt breakfast. And it really makes things quite simple, and it kind of makes it fun to look through it. And perhaps we have barbecue one night, it rains. We'll just swap out those days. We'll make sure we have the groceries prepared and ready for it. And I've been eating pretty well because of that, and I've had a lot of success there. But I have had seasons in my life where I've strictly meal prepped. I've done that. I've had times where like I'm on the move and I've had to eat out almost every meal, and I'd kind of budget in what meals were best for that as well. So case in point, there really is no perfect example. Meal preps can be another fantastic option, just getting them delivered, having them done, removing all the guesswork. And I think you need to play with different things to see what makes sense for you and that makes sense for the current season of life you're in as well. But the benefit of meal prepping is it fits your macros, you can log in advance, it's pre-portioned, and those are big advantages, right? Like even sometimes it's hard. Like even the other night, like my wife made this really good like beef and rice, and it was just like super good. And I'm like, I weighed out my portion, right? And I had like a ton of ground beef, ton of rice. And it was so good. I wanted more in this big pot full. But what was awesome with that is I saved it, and it was a phenomenal lunch yesterday, which I really appreciated too. So once again, there's benefits and negatives to every situation, but I think the more you experiment with it, and at the very least, I find Sunday's a phenomenal day to come up with some rough game plan to make sure you have some success in the week.
Yeah, and it's just really about knowing what you're going to have, because like there will always be a million things thrown your way. I decided today I'm going to do turkey burgers, and it's what's going to fit my macros. It's going to be very simple. It's going to take me 10-15 minutes. And I think a lot of times like people just go about their life just like not knowing like what's going to be the next meal. Where is it going to come from? And that's why they're struggling on their journey. And that's why the meal preps, like Josh said, are so helpful, because you know what you're getting as long as you do eat it. Like I'm telling you, there's been so many people I know who just will, just cook it all, and then just they don't end up eating it because they're like, they dread it, right? So that's what's cool about flexible dieting and the approach that we take is there is so much flexibility. Like the broccoli, chicken, and rice example, it's great. It's an amazing food. Some people will try so many weeks to just have it, and they're like, I just don't like it. You have flexibility. If you want lean ground beef, absolutely awesome. If you want to fit fish in or steak in or whatever it is, you can make it work. And with our coaching program, we're not going to tell you you can only have these specific meals and you have to carry Tupperware containers containers around to weddings, to events, to everything like that. You have flexibility and we can make it fit your lifestyle, which makes such a big difference. So if you are listening to the very end of this episode right now, you're a real one. We appreciate you so much. If you haven't joined our coaching program, I promise you, you will want to join because we will absolutely change your life. And if you're made it this far, 40 plus minutes in, I know that you want better. I know that you have what it takes. You have the right mindset. You just need the right accountability, the right systems, and we will get you there. First link down below. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next episode.
And one last thing I want to add, just to make sure that you're not missing out, make sure you subscribe or follow on iTunes or Spotify for this podcast. Apparently they changed it where they're not actually showing episodes unless people are subscribed or followed. So if you want great motivation, great, amazing content like you did today, and you don't want to miss out, make sure just to click that subscribe or follow button. It's going to make all the difference. Takes literally a second. So do that right now. Peace out.